Let's go, if we go on this slide. So what we thought we would do now quickly is just try and get some feedback on each of these dimensions and just see what kind of, I suppose the issues are like, what did you like? What did you think that'll be very difficult? And I heard quite a lot of that as I was going around. And then any practical ideas. So if we start at the top, so with the connect career with the world, the affective dimension, would anybody like to say something, well, give us some kind of flavor of their discussion on that one? Who was talking about that?
Yeah,
effective, yeah. Let me give you the microphone. Give us some thoughts.
Okay, I'm going to also call on my teammates here because I was the one making lots of notes, but they were the ones with some great ideas. So I think the starting point was thinking about some of the assumptions that young people are making about sustainability and the green economy. Their understanding and true appreciation of their role in that. And obviously, if they don't have a great understanding of it or they're slightly frightened of it, then there's a bit of a gap. And with that gap creates anxiety, creates concerns and misunderstandings, which can drive their empathy towards something or their disempathy towards it as well. The other thing that came up in the discussion was around well-being and how do we encourage students to get a sense of what well-being in work looks like to them, and what would they like that to look like, so that when they are moving into the world of work and when they're thinking about different jobs or opportunities that might be suitable for them, do those jobs and opportunities match what they're looking for from a job to ensure that the job they're moving into becomes sustainable for them as well. And I think we started as well with talking about trying to dispel the myths about what green jobs mean, and perhaps how limited the definitions have been and the extent to which that whole sector has been explained to the student population as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right, thanks.
Great, so lots of stuff there. You want to come on there?
I'm just so happy that you that you're discussing this. So I'm just taking it all in, and I think these are very valuable points in terms of the well-being part, like the stuff that Arndt was talking about yesterday as well, which certainly applies to the affective definition, that you get this resonance like in your immediate life. So yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Right. So the next one, the build solidarity with the world through careering, the social-ecological dimension. Would anyone like to give us any feedback on that one? What were you talking about? Hold on, let me give you the microphone so people online.
We were talking about a lot of ways in which we can use this in sort of the group experience, whether that be in a secondary school or a university. So to actually sort of put the focus on the students, what they create in the projects. So I'm involved in a module that is a work-based learning, a work-life experience module, but the theme running through it is sustainability. Mm-hmm. So the students are learning about the sustainability as part of the module. They have mini placements and projects that are aligned to that. But also as a careers practitioner, I'll go in and do a session on how to have a career that will make a positive impact on the world, and just getting them to sort of really sort of think about it. But it's actually trying to sort of build that community in terms of getting students to work on a common issue, and that will give them that sort of sense of that we're all in it together. And one of my colleagues here do you want to speak about the school project a little bit? Because that was really amazing.
So this was a project from quite a few years ago. I was a science teacher, but the project was led by art. And for 14, 15-year-old students who are about year 9, the aim was for them to do a piece of artwork to try and help people understand about the problem of plastics in the oceans. So we were teaching about plastics in science, the idea of the life cycle of plastics. You throw away your toothbrush, you don't have to think about it again, but to try and use art to visualize what could happen with those plastics. So it really engaged the art department because they didn't really want to do a STEM collaborative project, but that got them really fired up to do the art project. It creates some amazing artwork because the kids had such brilliant imaginations, getting old fishing lines and fishing nets and plastics trapped, and we made model animals. And I'll tell them a bit about the toothbrush and the turtle.
Oh, yeah.
Use your imagination. But it was brilliant. And then people in school were invited to come and look at this. And it was all led by art. So the art department really were just enjoying the success of this project and then the exhibition that followed.
I mean, I think some of those examples really show that the idea is not that you do one activity for each of these things. Like a lot of the career learning and other learning activities you're describing will probably engage with a lot of these different learning outcomes. So you're sort of developing different learning outcomes. Yeah, have we got some points from the online group?
Yeah, so the online group talked about the social ecological dimensions, and they felt it had a project feel about it. And Fiona talked about her Building Communities Annual Grand Challenges project at Exeter. And they also talked about how it's important to work in the community, getting students to work with community groups to get a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Great.
Great.
Thank you for that. Should we just have the last, any feedback from this table? What were you talking about? Siobhan, do you want to?
Loads. Knitting. We did a lot of knitting talk, as we have some, champion knitters on this table. And we talked about quite a lot of things, I think. So I'll probably encourage my colleagues to join us in what we were talking about. We're talking about some of the challenges around, particularly for school-based practitioners, that have very limited time with students, and that this is actually an ideological way of thinking about our work, more as well as having the knowledge base to support students to better understand what this means. And we talked a lot about how we might be able to position some of the narratives more in future-proofing and future of career, so that it might actually be more meaningful, because I think the challenges that we've all talked about, the abstract nature of some of these issues and how we communicate that effectively. Just the other things that
we need structures, and we need some structures and other opportunities in place for things like training the people that are going to change their practice in order to do this as well. So I was asking Jill if she has the model for anything you could use to train all of our careers consultants at the University of Warwick in order to begin thinking in these ways and beginning to adjust their practice and engaging with students. Just wondered, on the basis of what you said there as well, that is, if resource and support networks were an issue, do you need connections to be resurrected from the dead or something like that? You bring back the kind of support networks that young people had and that actual school-based practitioners could refer to that existed 15 years ago, that are now gone, and within which we can develop this kind of continuous environment of learning and engaging with these things from a very young age through to adulthood.
Sorry. And just the last thing, we talked about the national curriculum in schools and the pressure to compete in international league tables, and if there was such a thing, we wouldn't just be obsessing about maths and English, but we'd be able to get this in the national curriculum.
I mean, one thing that just came up here, and also we were talking about over there, was that we've got to be very careful that we don't say this is a sort of abstract model that all careers practitioners should be doing regardless of what the environment is. Obviously, it relies people to have space and time to do it. We've said it relies for training, and it ultimately relies on some alignment between policy and funding and the kind of ways that people work, which, you know, if all you're focused on is getting someone any job, you know, we might argue that's not careers work anyway, but it's also not going to be conducive to this kind of like broader types of thinking that we're advocating for. But I'll hand over to Miriam to give us last thoughts on this and where we're going next with it.
Yeah, well, I'm just so happy to hear your thoughts and your engagement on our work, because we have been working with this and we might think we have worked out some good ideas, but to discuss it with you and hear you reflect upon this is really very helpful in the continuation of our job. And I think what you said there was, you call in Danish a mavepumper. Could be like you're getting you know, all your oxygen beat out of you because you have to rely on funding and policy. And I think that's true as well. Like, we need the framework to be set to do this practice. But I also think that we should be creative and just, you know, some of these things, they always work from the bottom up, because we have knowledge about this, and we, you know, we know these things, and we are a powerful profession, so we can think big and then start with little steps. So that was my my empowering speech.
So massive thank you to Miriam and Tristram, thank you so much. So we're on to lunch now, so we're breaking until 1:30. Everyone is back here for the World Cafe session, including the online audience who are back in your respective here. So we'll see you at 1:30. Thank you.
Thank you.